Şimdi ben
Webinar.
bilgisayara kaydediyorum.
There is a info that webinar is now streaming live.
Şu an başladı mı YouTube kaydı?
Evet.
Bey.
Şu anda kaydı da başlatıyorum.
Tamam. Okay, Dejan, you can start.
Söz sizde.
Okay. Maybe regarding the official time, we can wait for 1 minute for 13:30. I'm going to share my presentation. So, hello everybody. I hope that all interested participants are either currently active or are going to visit and to be a part of this session at the International Health and Climate Change Congress. Just a sec, there is a problem. Okay. As you can probably see at this first slide, my name is Dejan Vasovic, PhD in the area of technical sciences, particularly in the area of environmental protection, graduated engineer. Regarding the International Health and Climate Change Congress, this session under the number of 30 is dedicated to the issues in general, to the issues of environmental and occupational health risks, assessment methods, and protection measures. The session in general has 3 presentations, 3 speeches, organized and provided by 3 authors, by myself, by my dear colleague, PhD research assistant Ana Stojanovic, and graduated PhD colleague from the Serbian Armed Forces, Slađan Hristov, who is justifiably absent and who is not going to be able to present his presentation, so I'm going to do it instead of him. Regarding my professional background, I hope that I'm going to be successful enough to fulfill the requirements of this Congress. Of course, at the beginning, I would like to express my gratefulness and my pleasure for being a part of International Health and Climate Change Congress. Actually, this is the second International Health and Climate Change Congress. There was a possibility for myself to address and to attend the first one, but certainly I am very, very proud for being a part of this Congress, and I hope that we are going to cooperate in the future. I'm associate professor at the Faculty of Occupational Safety, University of Niš, which is located in southern part of Republic of Serbia. Member of the chair for working and living environmental quality management, and also head and the co-head of the laboratory for water protection. You can use, I guess that those presentations are going to be able to run through it via official web page, so you can use this official email contacts for future correspondence. As I mentioned, I work at the Faculty of Occupational Safety in Niš, Republic of Serbia, as an associate professor for almost 20 years, formally 17 or 18 years. For now, my research interests includes, but are not limited to, environmental quality management, since I am a member of the chair for environmental quality management, different environmental protection techniques, particularly best available techniques. Regarding the area of environmental protection, which is very, very broad, I focus my professional and research interest to the field of water resources protection and water resources management usage, and also regarding the fact that I am a passive reserve officer, I focus on emergency management issues and also public or communal utilities, public services, integrated pollution prevention and control, and recently, in recent not more than 3 years, thanks to one recently finished very successful international Erasmus Plus capacity building project, I get involved in the field of soil erosion and torrential flood management, where also I need to stress the fact my colleague Ana Stojanovic successfully finished and defended the master thesis dedicated to the issues of soil erosion and torrential flood management. Of course, regarding the outcomes of my research, of my work, there are numerous papers which can be addressed and find either via my ORCID number identification or Web of Science or Scopus Researcher ID. But keep in mind the fact that in Republic of Serbia, within governmental owned universities, there are two Dejan Vasovic, two researchers, which is particularly interesting. Both of us are engaged in the area of water management, water resources. There is Dejan Vasovic from University of Belgrade, who is a civil engineer and who observed water as a part of civil engineering. And there is Dejan Vasovic from University of Niš, Faculty of Occupational Safety, who observe water resources as a part of environment, as a part of environmental services, and who study different environmental protection techniques. But there is a lot of misunderstanding situation regarding this situation. So certainly you can try to visit and maybe to read some of my paper, and maybe we can establish some future cooperation. Regarding this presentation, this speech, introductory speech, of course, just a sec, there is a short summary for introduction. At the beginning, I'm going to present my home university and my home faculty, a focal institution in the southern part of Serbia in the field of higher education. After it, we are going to make I'm going to make a few notes regarding sustainable development issues, particularly sustainable development goals, and to connect it with the climate change effects, climate change issues. Then to establish a brief reflection on occupational health and safety, environmental health and safety, also fire safety issues, to mention something a little bit regarding historical background in the Republic of Serbia and contemporary state within this area. And of course, regarding the title of this presentation and this session, I'm going to address a few, not every, but only some selected achievements in the Republic of Serbia connected to both issues of climate changes and occupational and environmental health and safety, followed, of course, for the closing part of this presentation with concluding remarks and some future directions. Regarding University of Niš, as you can notice, the University of Niš is nowadays located in this beautiful building, which is actually the part of our national heritage, which is actually under protection of Republic of Serbia. University of Niš has a long tradition, particularly in the field of technical sciences. University of Niš had founded on 15 June in 1965. Before this date, the University of Niš was only a part of University of Belgrade, and University of Niš gathered its independence into professional sense, as you can notice, some 60 years ago. The headquarters of the University of Niš is located, as I mentioned, in this beautiful building, which is called in Serbian Banovina, which refers to the correct translation to English could be voivodeship or something or province headquarters. Certainly, this building was some kind of province headquarters from the end of 19th century to the era before World War II. Regarding University of Niš, from its establishment in the 1965 to this day, to academic year 2020-2021, there were more than 70,000 graduate students, including, which is particularly interesting in sense of international cooperation, more than 1,300 foreign students, more than 7,000 postgraduates or master's students, and something which is maybe some kind of rare achievement from Republic of Serbia, more than 2,600 magister degrees. Magister is something which is between master thesis and PhD thesis. During the moment, actually, these numbers can slightly change. There are approximately 150 accredited study programs at the level of 14. We are going to see it later at the 14 faculties comprising the University of Niš, almost 1,500 of teaching staff, and almost the same number of supporting technical staff. And currently there are almost 30,000 students at the accredited study programs, which ranks the University of Niš at the second biggest university at the Republic of Serbia. Of course, the first one is the University of Belgrade, located in our capital, in the Belgrade. Nowadays, University of Niš comprises of 14 faculties. The faculties in the field of technical sciences, natural sciences, and medicine are the oldest one. For instance, Faculty of Civil Engineering, Faculty of Electronic Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, and Technology, followed by the Faculty of Pedagogy, Law, Economy, Philosophy, etc., while the youngest one is Faculty of Agriculture. Faculty of Occupational Safety is located somewhere in the middle. Faculty of Occupational Safety is not the oldest one, but there is a long tradition in the field of occupational and environmental safety conducted by my faculty, by Faculty of Occupational Safety. And we are going to see some brief timeline relevant for the Faculty of Occupational Safety. As you can notice from this slide, some more than 50 years ago, there was a department of occupational safety opened at the technical faculty, which was a part of University of Niš. And in 1972, the Faculty of Occupational Safety was formally established and gained independence as a formal independent institution in the field of occupational safety with only one study program dedicated to only issues of occupational health and safety. In 1988, the new study program was introduced, dedicated to the issues of fire safety, fire protection program, and with respect to the international activities and some national activities in the field of environmental protection in general, Faculty of Occupational Safety established and introduced new study program focusing on the environmental protection in 1991. In 2007, we adopted the Bologna principles and reorganized our study programs. We introduced bachelor, master, and PhD studies, hierarchy of three level of studies. At the beginning, there was only a joint bachelor study program entitled Occupational and Environmental Safety. In 2014, we reaccredited the existing study programs and divided at the bachelor level to the occupational safety and environmental protection. At the master level, there is numerous study programs, more than 6 or 7 of them, dedicated to the issues on emergency management, environmental protection engineering, occupational safety engineering, fire safety engineering, and there is one study program focused on the multidisciplinary management issues of either environmental or occupational area. In general, our mission is to educate our students to be able and to have enough skills to independently conduct programs, safety programs focusing on protection of nature, people, or material goods or property. Regarding the possible future cooperation, our faculty runs 2 scientific journals, Safety Engineering, which is a national journal dedicated to the issues of environmental protection, occupational safety, emergency management, etc. And Facta Universitatis, series Working and Living Environmental Protection, with the similar topics, with the similar area of operating, but run by our university, while the editors and the editorial boards, members of editorial boards are the professors from our faculty. And of course, particularly interesting is the option to participate at our traditional conference organized and hosted by our faculty, entitled Men and Working Environment, which is biannual conference. Of course, all the data and all the update info regarding these 2 journals in the conference could be found at official website of our faculty. But this conference is a particularly interesting option to get involved with cooperation with the Faculty of Occupational Safety. This is a biannual conference, and actually some 7 or 8 days ago, we successfully finished also one online conference dedicated to the issues of occupational and environmental health, engineering, and management. Regarding the professional part of this presentation, this opening speech and opening presentation is dedicated to the issues of climate changes, identified risks and identified adverse effects of climate changes in Republic of Serbia, with particular regard to the issues of impacts and, of course, reactions of measures need to be undertaken in order to prevent huge impact of evident climate change risks. Regarding climate change risks in the Republic of Serbia, there are different methodologies and different approaches, and more than a dozen of conducted studies focusing of the issues of climate changes and posed risks that mainly are derived from the temperature change, but this indicator, this parameter temperature change severely affects the numerous economy sectors. For instance, there are in Republic of Serbia, regarding to the majority of conducted studies, 4 sectors which are most sensitive or vulnerable to the climate change risks. The first one is certainly social sector, which refers to the housing, education, health, and culture issues, followed by production sector, particularly vulnerable in the Republic of Serbia. Our next production sectors: agriculture, trade, tourism, mining, and energy production. Of course, infrastructure would be heavily endangered by climate change risks, particularly water supply and sanitation as a part of public utilities. My colleague Anna is going to discuss a little bit in detail, more in detail, public utilities, followed by transportation in general, and communication, not online-based communication, but man-to-man communication, and general problems or general issues, which mainly refers to the issues of environmental protection. In terms of mentioned temperature rise, average annual temperature rise and monthly temperature rise, the Republic of Serbia is certainly more affected by climate changes, or going to be more affected by climate changes than most other places on Earth, because the area in general of Western Balkans is recognized as sensitive area according to the different IPCC scenarios, at least 4 of them. And of course, there are some observed, measured climate indices that could be used in order to support this statement. For instance, the number of frost days is decreasing in the Republic of Serbia when we observe the average values. The number of ice days is also decreasing, while the number of summer days is increasing, and also the number of tropical days is increasing. And number of, particularly interesting is the fact that numbers of the days with heat waves is increased for more than 30 days at the annual level, and number of the days with extreme heat waves, with the heat waves with a more than 40 Celsius temperature, are increasing at the level, at the scale of 2 to 4 days per annum, per 1 year. So there is certainly evidence that Republic of Serbia is going to be affected by climate changes, and there is a need for reaction. There is a need for climate changes adaptation. In sense of gross domestic product, regarding Republic of Serbia, our gross domestic product is currently at the level of 50 billions of US dollars. And if we observe these trend lines, these charts, with regard to the IPCC dominant scenarios, I guess that majority of participants at the International Health and Climate Change Congress, and particularly this session, are familiar with the IPCC scenarios. IPCC scenario 1 is, let's say, the most desirable one, which predicts the least adverse effects of the climate change, while the scenario 4 represents the worst one, let's say, in sense of climate change impacts on either society or environment. And regarding these climate change scenarios, as you can see in some not so distant future, but also in distant future, we can expect severe damages and severe decrease in sense of GDP, gross domestic product, at the level of Republic of Serbia if we do not conduct some kind of adaptation measures. Regarding the other adverse effects, not only gross domestic product is going to be affected by climate changes in Republic of Serbia, there are also evidences that regarding the health sector, which is probably particularly important for the participants at this Congress, participating in this Congress. Additional expenditures for the healthcare system in the Republic of Serbia are going to be higher due to the climate changes. For the observed and mentioned scenarios, as I mentioned, scenario 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are mainly focused on temperature increase by 1, 2, 3, or 4 degrees Celsius. And as you can see from this table, which represent the percentage of the current annual expenditures for the healthcare system in Serbia, we can expect the significant increase of additional expenditures for the healthcare system in the Republic of Serbia if there is no change or no decrease of climate change effects. Regarding the working hours, as I mentioned, we are quite active in the area of occupational health and safety. Regarding occupational health and safety, there are two dominant indicators that are used when you want to observe or to elaborate a situation connected to the professional risk management, either working hours or number of injuries. Number of injuries are not so relevant for the area of climate changes, but number of lost working hours are a very interesting factor, very interesting indicator to be observed, analyzed, and used for the different prediction. And regarding working hours lost, predictions for the working hours lost due to the heat stresses, and the days with extreme heat waves. Regarding sectors, the most affected sectors in the area of Southern Europe, you can see that Republic of Serbia is going to be severely affected in a negative way in sense of lost working hours due to the heat stress. These data are provided by our, I forgot to mention the fact at the beginning, by our Statistical Office of Republic of Serbia, and also confirmed by International Labour Organization. Regarding the environment, the temperature increase predicted by different IPCC scenarios is going to lead to the further GDP losses due to the increased availability of drinking water. These data are also expressed in sense of billions of US dollars. As you can see, the scenario 4, the worst one, shows to us that, for instance, in some 20 years, the decreased availability of drinking water is probably going to influence the GDP for 50% or 52%, which is a huge amount. in the area of GDP. So, of course, there are numerous evidences addressed in Republic of Serbia of adverse climate change's effects. But of course, due to the time limit, I cannot address all of them. I choose and I share with you some major, let's say, conclusions. But of course, there is obligation, there is a need to conduct some kind of response and to define some kind of adaptation techniques, measures, and activities to be conducted at the level of Republic of Serbia. Those techniques and those responses could be most effectively categorized within two SDG, Sustainable Development Goals areas. Area 6, which refers to the clean water sanitation, and area 13, which refers to the climate actions conducted by each government, each republic, and which is particularly important, those measures must be conducted at the level proposed by the national government as a part of national plans, but need to be conducted at the level of local self-government and mostly supported by the public utility operators. As I mentioned, Anna is going to say a few words more about the public utilities. Public utilities are certainly the pillar of adaptation measures and certainly the most valuable members of climate change adaptation process, because public utilities are responsible or in charge for either social well-being. So we can observe that social component of public utilities, but also for the environmental protection in general. So if you want to protect and to decrease the influence of climate changes on either society or neighboring environment, we need at the first place to adapt and to transform our public utility sector or public utility sector of each country. Of course, climate adaptation must rely on the international recommendations and international data, international requirements, and need to address also and sustainable issues, particularly issues regarding sustainable settlements. Regarding the public utilities, I'm just going to make a brief note on public utilities. Public utilities represents the part of national economy focusing on user needs, for instance, the need for the potable water or district heating or public hygiene, but also on environmental protection needs. For instance, there is no water protection in general if there is no sewage network. And of course, public utilities are probably the most important for this social economy and ecology nexus. And of course, the public utilities need to be seen as a part of either continuity of social development, settlements development, and sustainability of settlements. In the Republic of Serbia, the public utilities are particularly important in sense of GDP of Republic of Serbia, total number of employees, and a total number of users. As you can see, this is particularly important sector either for our GDP or the climate change reaction. There is 2% of our GDP generated by public utilities, approximately 3.5% of total employees, and public utilities serve in the Republic of Serbia more than 90% of users. So the most effective, I found it as the most effective way to transform and to reorganize public utilities in order to focus and to prevent adverse climate change effects, particularly in the area, as you're going to see throughout the presentation, in the area of public water supply, for instance, and waste management sewerage network, etc. Regarding the methodology which we use in Republic of Serbia, focusing on the either sustainable development and climate changes, the existing methodology in Republic of Serbia relies on Eurostat methodology, which is conducted by Serbian Statistical Office or Republic Office for Statistics. And progress in Republic of Serbia, either in the field of climate change adaptation and sustainable development, is measured throughout indicator which is called compound annual growth rate, ranked in 7 categories, which refers to the positive progress, neutral state, and negative progress. In general, sustainable development goals which are connected to the issues of climate changes are dominantly categorized in the area 13 and 6. Sustainable development goals 13 calls to urgent action to combat climate change and adverse impacts of climate change, while the SDG 6 focus or calls for availability and affordability of water resources and sanitation services for all citizens or all inhabitants of one country. Regarding the SDG 13, there is a need of education improvement. We need to focus, this is particularly interesting for the teaching staff working at the level of universities, different universities. So we need to integrate adaptation measures to different national, regional, and particularly important local policies to conduct improvements in the field of higher education, to conduct activities or actions focusing on awareness raising, and of course to transform our institutions to increase the capacity of them to combat the climate changes. Regarding the SDG 13 area in the Republic of Serbia, our national reports demonstrate the significant progress in the sense of achieving defined targets, which are the subcomponent of the SDG 13, particularly or namely the indicator 13.1.1, which refers to the number of deaths, missing persons, and directly affected persons attributed to the primarily national disasters per 100,000 population. And the other indicator refers to the number of countries that adopt and implement national disaster risk reduction strategies in line with the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. This Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction focus on the period of 15 years. It is a successor of Hyogo framework for action and current global disaster framework is intended to last to the 2030, and indicator or 13.143, proportion of local governments. You're going to see one very interesting fact regarding proportion of local governments that adopt and implement local disaster risk reduction strategies. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, there is obvious need and there is obvious line of effects of events need to be conducted and to structure it in that way that at the beginning, at the top, we need to remark the global initiatives, the global conclusions, to transfer it to the level of national policies. But if we want effectively to address the climate change issues, then we need to plan, to establish, and to implement local strategies and to fight, to combat locally at the local level with the adverse climate changes effects. Regarding this indicator, this area 13, in Republic of Serbia, we still didn't develop some particular indicators which refers to the area 13, but we use the sub-component, sub-indicator from the primarily target area 1, which should be fulfilled by 2030, which refers to the Sendai framework of disaster risk reduction, and subcomponents 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.5, where there is obvious decrease regarding key findings. There is obvious decrease of the total number of inhabitants affected by the national disasters. But at the other hand, regarding the local policies, the local strategies, we found extremely small percentage of local climate changes or disaster preventing strategies or policies at the level of less than 1%, as you can see from this slide. In the Republic of Serbia, only 8 local self-governments implemented local climate changes and disaster prevention policies out of 174 local self-governments, or only 0.05% of the all local governments in the Republic of Serbia, which poses the urgent need to increase and to stipulate this process to increase the number of local self-governments which adopted the appropriate local climate changes combat strategy. Regarding the SDG 6 area, of course, this increase, the annual average temperature increase, can severely also affect the water resources area, and there are in the Republic of Serbia 6 subcomponents, 6 indicators which somehow refer to the area of climate changes. For instance, population connected to the centralized wastewater treatment with at least secondary treatment can increase the capacity and reduce the resilience of the surface water bodies to increasement of the annual temperature. In the Republic of Serbia, there is still a small percentage, very small, unsatisfactory small percentage of population which is connected to the centralized wastewater treatment. Regarding the surface water bodies, the relevant surface water bodies, the situation is quite different. It is not so bad in the Republic of Serbia. Regarding the proportion of water bodies with water with good ambient water quality or good ecological status, if somebody of you is familiar with ecological status, the total share of water bodies, surface water bodies with good ecological status has compound annual growth rate, which shows the increase at the level of almost 3%, which indicates the fact that there is some kind of progress towards achieving this goal. Regarding water exploitation index, which is very and particularly important if we want to observe the climate change risks in the area of water supply, because the increase of the annual temperature leads to in most often cases, to the decrease of the available water resources, and in that way, the water exploitation index can be significantly higher. In the Republic of Serbia, the pressure on our water resources is relatively small, mainly because of the fact that the Republic of Serbia is not either poor or either rich country in sense of available water resources. We are at the level of approximately 1,500 cubic meters of available water resources of domicile waters per inhabitants per year, which refers to the observed and measured water exploitation index. As you can notice from this chart, there is a moderate, not significant, but moderate movement away from the target, which can be described as a decrease in sense of water exploitation index, and this also calls for some kind of urgent action in this area. So we need to focus on sustainable future, but also resilient development of our settlements. And of course, there is a need of transformation of and reorganization of different sectors in order to focus and to combat adverse climate change effects. And there are some, let's say, standardized tools which can help us in order to transform, reorganize, and establish climate resilient future, but also sustainable future. At the beginning of this speech, I mentioned that I am familiar with different environmental protection techniques. Some of them relies on the standardization process, on the usage of the system standards. And for the end of this opening speech, I provided a brief review of not more than three most interesting standards, international standards, which could be used in the area of climate resilient future. Particularly, there is concrete standard provided by international standardization for international standard organization for urban security and resilience, which defines the basic framework and principles of climate resilient cities, or climate resilient settlements. That is ISO standard from the series 22370, which describes and provides the basic framework for the sustainable and climate resilient development of the settlements, focusing on organizations who are responsible for the urban development, local development, urban governments. And in this sense, this standard is quite connected with the operating process of the public utilities. On this picture, you can see the content of the ISO 22370 standard, which address the key issues which need to be implemented and key requirements in order to establish, let's say, only a ground for the climate resilient future. Regarding the sustainable communities and also sustainable settlements, there is a particularly important and very, very fresh, very young standard, which address the issues of sustainable development in concrete communities. So at the level of local governments, this standard is intended for the establishment of the management system for sustainable developments. This standard defines or provides the basic requirements with also some kind of guidances for its usage. ISO standard 37101 from 2016 years. So this is, let's say, 6-year-old standard. This ISO standard defines requirements for the sustainable development of local communities, either cities or towns or municipalities, relies on so-called holistic approach, which means that this standard ensures some kind of transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary point of view to the sustainable developments of the local concrete governments. And this, which is particularly important, this standard is applicable, for all types and all sized local cities or governments. Similar to the previous one, at this picture you can see the content of the ISO, of this ISO standard, focusing on different economy sectors and providing the guidances for the sustainable but also resilient, climate resilient development, particularly in the field of education, governance, innovation, public health, economy, and which is particularly important from the point of occupational health and safety and environment, is the requirement focusing on safety and security of either a local infrastructure, but also safety and security of people and safety and security of neighboring environment or different environmental media. And regarding mentioned heat waves, for instance, extreme heat waves or extreme precipitation events or extreme weather related events, there is obvious need to establish concrete climate change action, to establish some kind of emergency management early warning system at the national and local level. And there is international standard from entitled ISO 22328. There is part 1, part 2 from 2020 years, so only 2 years ago. This standard was published only 2 years ago, focusing on early warning system. This standard provides actually the basic guidelines for the community-based early warning system, focusing on disaster prevention and management. And in particular, this standard refers to the issues of earthquakes and floods, different types of floods, while there is under development the next version of this standard, which is going to focus on landslides and avalanches. Of course, there is illustrative picture defining, describing this framework and the structure of this standard. Regarding the concluding remarks somehow reflects the opening part, the beginning part of this this presentation, this speech. In general, in the Republic of Serbia, based on conducted studies, and I guess that there is a similar situation in almost every Western Balkan and Eastern Balkan countries, and I guess also in the Republic of Turkey, that the intensity of emergency situation is going to be only higher due to the climate change effects. And of course, there is obvious need to conduct some kind of climate change adaptation measures. In the Republic of Serbia, the particular problems are going to be adverse events like torrential floods, wildfires, landslides, and of course heat waves, while the earthquakes are not closely connected to the issues of climate change. So we need to transform, to reorganize, and to prepare ourselves in order to combat climate changes. There are different ways fulfilling that, of course, we can use system standard in order to create and to implement adaptation techniques to combat climate changes, but also there is a need of transformation of different sectors in order to make them more resilient to the climate changes. Particularly, Anna is going to mention something after myself about transformation and the reorganization of one sector, only one sector of public utilities. But of course, each sector of national economy needs to be transformed and reorganized with a focus or having in mind the climate change effects. And of course, there is an obvious need, which is particularly important, to define some kind of priorities and to focus at the national scale, of course, to focus on those sectors which are primarily endangered by the climate change effects at the national scale. As I mentioned, in the Republic of Serbia, the particularly endangered are agricultural, water supply, and other connected water-related services, and energy production and tourism. I mentioned something about the water supply, and during the next presentation, you are going to hear some new facts and additional facts regarding either public utilities and also the risk management and crisis management techniques which can be used in the area of public water supply and sanitation. So with this statement, I'm going to finish my presentation, and of course to mention that we are going to organize the discussion part of this session at the end after the whole presentation. And I'm going right now to invite my dear colleague, Anna, our PhD candidate, to share its screen, its presentation, and to introduce and to present to us data and the facts relevant for the reorganization, as we mentioned, reorganization of public utilities in the Republic of Serbia. Dear Anna, you can start. I'm not going to use the phrase "the floor is yours," but I'm rather going to use the phrase "the interface is totally yours." So please proceed.
Okay, I shared my screen. I hope you can see this.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Stojanovic, and I'm a PhD student at the Faculty of Occupational Safety in Niš, as you already hear about my professor Dejan. The topic of my presentation is the organization of public utilities as a sectoral strategy for climate change adaptation process. As you can see, the work is divided in these 4 parts, and this work explains the importance of private sector involvement and presents 3 transformation models with their submodels. Firstly, I will say something about public utility companies. After that, I will talk about the connection between climate change and public utility companies. After that, about reorganization of public utilities, and in the end, about public-private partnership, and something about water supply. Also, I said at the beginning, I would like to say something about characteristics of public utility companies. As a professor already said, organization and provision of utilities is one of the original competitions of local self-governments according to the constitution and the law, and the aim of utility services is regulated primarily by the law on communal activities, which defines public utilities and prescribes the general requirements and methods for their provision. The relationship of local authorities and citizens is most directly reflected in the provision of public utility services. As you can see in this picture, operation of public utility companies is the essential sector of global economy, and utilities play an integral role in wealth creation in both developed and developing countries. In an averagely developed countries, utility activities are most often in third place in terms of the number of employees and the realized GDP. And when we talk about climate, the world's changing climate has led to increase in extreme weather events like disaster heat waves, deadly wildfires, more frequently and more intense hurricanes. And these events can cause a myriad of damage, putting human settlements at risk and dislocating populations. And a special report from Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change of the United Nations titled Global Warming of 1.5 degrees of Celsius emphasizes that it is far past time to debate whether or not we must act on the climate change. Rather, the question now is the extent to which we are willing to act to avoid the potentially catastrophic impacts of unmitigated climate change, and the consequences of climate change may be considered as a threat to utilities since they depend on weather condition in different ways. And this may consequently affect the satisfaction of basic needs such as the access to energy, to mobility, water, living space, and other. Climate-related shocks and stress are increasing in frequency and magnitude, cause damage to infrastructure systems and disruptions in the provision of services. And the consequence of climate change on public utilities have so far only been treated scarcely compared to the impacts on ecosystem, agriculture, and natural resources. Public utility companies play a key role in achieving sustainable development goals in urban areas. Through the provision and delivery of essential services, networked infrastructure system, which include water, energy, transportation, waste management, and digital communications from the backbone of modern societies. But however, no infrastructure system exists in isolation. In the interdependencies between the asset that makes up an infrastructure system mean that infrastructure must be considered as a system of systems, and network infrastructure is explicitly mentioned in Sustainable Development Goal 9 and also Sustainable Development Goal 6 and 7. And this figure shows the sustainable development goals which are most impacted by investing in infrastructure resilience. For the past 3 decades, change experts, scientists, and environmental experts have relied the world to act against a looming climate change. and the United Nations listed the Sustainable Development Goal number 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact, in a bid to highlight the gravity of the situation and need for climate action. And now when we talk about transformation models for public utility companies, we have three models. The first model is no change in the legal form and ownership structure of public utility companies. The second one is with change in legal form and ownership structure of public utility companies. And the last one is contractual arrangements. Now I will explain all of these models. The first model is characterized by internal organizational changes and redistribution of the workforce and material resource to improve efficiency. Next one is a model with change in the legal form and ownership structure of public utility companies. And this model comprises three submodels. The first submodel involves partial change in the legal form and ownership structure through separation of the primary from the other activities of the public utility companies. The second one submodel involves the transformation of the entire public utility companies into a joint stock company. And the third one a submodel involves change into the legal form of the public utility companies, and it is essentially a functional regional or a regional network whereby several public utility companies providing to one same services establish some sort of joint venture. The managing rights in the new regional public utility companies are determined based on how much individual public utility companies contributed to the capital stock. And the last model is contractual arrangements, and this model involves the partnership with private sector entities. And public-private partnership can be classified depending on the degree of involvement and assume the risk of the public and the private sector within the partnership. This figure shows the basic types of public-private partnership and the position of the private sector depending on the assumed risk and degree of involvement in the public-private partnership. If structured correctly, public-private partnership can increase climate resilience, offering innovative solutions to address both mitigation and adaptation challenges. And public-private partnerships are able to provide well-informed and well-balanced risk allocation between partners, offering the long-term visibility and stability for the during of competing climate change uncertainty through constructor predictability. And climate change impacts such as increasing temperatures, droughts are affecting the availability of quality of water, while floods and heavy rainfall pose the risk of damaging key water and sanitation infrastructure and contaminating water. And standards have an essential role in underpinning process towards strengthening the resilience of infrastructure systems. Standards also provide the necessary criteria and guidelines to evaluate the climate resilience of a project throughout the life cycle of the infrastructures. Since the uninterrupted supply of hygienically safe drinking water is included in a number of European and global documents as a basic human right. The most important documents in the context are the guidelines of the World Health Organization regarding drinking water and the European norm 15,975 standard, and World Health Organization guidelines are the most important acts on drinking water quality in Europe, and Water Health Organization guidelines emphasize the water safe plan as the most efficient tool to consistently secure drinking water supply safety. And European norm 15,975 is a European standard describing the good practice principles of drinking water supply management in the event of crisis, including preparatory and following up some measures. And finally, we can conclude the issues with public utility service provision in the Republic of Serbia are caused by numerous factors, and some of them are here. Poorly defined property relation between the public utility companies and their founders. Next one is politicized management. Inadequate public utility infrastructure and equipment, insufficient funds to finance capital investments, issues related to depressed practice of utility services and low utility bill payment, and lack of continuity and so on. And I agree with Professor Dejan in his conclusion when he said that we need to reorganization our public utility companies for better adaptation process to climate change. And that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Anna. Okay, you already used the stop share option, and for the end of this panel, I'm going to provide a few notes on the role of the resources of the primarily Serbian armed forces, but officially Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Serbia in sense of prevention and mitigation of the consequences of the weather-related emergencies. As mentioned by myself and by Anna, there is obvious need of reaction, of response to the adverse climate change's effects. Of course, regarding the response, each response of each country, there is a unique principle that regarding the response, you can only at the particular moment respond by available means. And regarding this presentation refers to the very practical, very applicable contribution of our colleague Slađan Hristov, PhD, who currently works at the level of General Staff of the Serbian Armed Forces, particularly Department for Civil Military Cooperation, where the content of this presentation refers to the usage of some military, but not so military means in sense of climate change's combat or prevention or mitigation of some adverse climate change effects. Of course, the focus of this research and this presentation is on the extreme weather related emergencies. Regarding our colleague, also successful PhD candidate, Slađan Hristov is currently at the rank of colonel at our armed forces, located at our capital, Belgrade. But unfortunately, due to its duties and intensive field work, Slađan is not able to present his presentation, so I'm going to replace him. Slađan received his doctoral degree in environmental protection engineering area from University of Niš, Faculty of Occupational Safety in Serbia in 2019, so 3 years ago, and currently works at the mentioned civil military department in Belgrade. He is very active in the field of international workshops and also internationally supported projects aiming at fostering the civil military cooperation, but also he is quite active in the field of scientific papers publishing. He records more than 2,000 dozens of scientific papers dedicated to the issues of environmental protection, emergency management in particular, and civil military cooperation models. And maybe it is interesting and fact to stress the importance that there is also previous experience of colleague Slađan Hristov in the field of pharmaceutical waste management. Regarding this presentation, Slađan provided to us a brief summary of his presentation. Of course, there is introduction part and a short note on existing anti-hail protection system in the Republic of Serbia, short note on Serbian armed forces, the first, the second, and particularly the third mission of the Serbian armed forces, and of course a few statements regarding or reflecting the future perspective of anti-hail protection in the Republic of Serbia. What is the reason? What are the motivating factors that leads to this research and this presentation? Anna mentioned something within her presentation, and I mentioned something at the beginning, that in the Republic of Serbia, we constantly record the significant losses attributed to the different kind of natural emergencies, particularly extreme weather related emergencies. As you can see from this table, of course, the losses attributed to the droughts and frost events are the most prominent one. Of course, the highest values of losses are connected to the extreme droughts, but also the floods and extreme weather, particularly extreme weather coupled with hail events, can create significant economic, but also the losses expressed as a number of injuries or even human deaths can severely affect the Republic of Serbia. So there is, of course, obvious need for some kind of preventive measures, mitigation techniques, and a response. Or to summarize it, there is obviously need to improve and reorganize existing anti-hail protection system in the Republic of Serbia. Regarding additional or more precise data, as you can see from those two charts, regarding the total deaths which are connected to the effects of natural hazards in the Republic of Serbia, there is no deaths that are product or connected to the hailstorms, but there are losses, economic losses connected to the hailstorm events. In particular, in Republic of Serbia, 11% of the all economic losses attributed to the natural disasters are caused by the hailstorms. So 1/10 of the all losses, which is significant number, and that number urge for the some kind of anti-hail protection upgrade in the Republic of Serbia. With regards to the affected population, as you can see from the left chart, 6% of the affected population in the Republic of Serbia regarding the recorded data are affected by hailstorm, and regarding the houses that are damaged during some kind or all kinds of national disasters, the hailstorms contributes to the level of 12%, which is similar to the economic losses. Just to remember all of you, the level of economic losses ranks to the level of 11%. So, what to do? In the Republic of Serbia, there is existing anti-hail protection system run by and operated by our Republican Hydrometeorological Service located in Belgrade. And as you can see from the left picture, at the beginning, some 50 years ago, only the Belgrade and the central part of Serbia were covered by the anti-hail protection system. During the next decades, the surface or the total area covered by the anti-hail protection system continuously expanded. So some 15 years ago, the entire area of Republic of Serbia is covered by distributed anti-hail protection system. But this sentence, distributed, is very important because the existing anti-hail protection system relies on the network of, as you can see from the right picture, relies on the network of the regional radar centers which monitor the weather and the local anti-hail static points. We do not have mobile, let's say, mobile equipment for allocation of anti-hail resources, which is in quite opposite to the hailstorms, which are particularly in the area of western part of Serbia, very concentrated in sense of time and space. So there is constitutional obligation which refers to the activities of Republic Hydrometeorological Service to cover the entire area of Republic of Serbia, and because of that fact, the existing network is decentralized. and there is no ability to concentrate the efforts, existing efforts, anti-hail efforts, to one point or to one region with regard to the existing anti-hail system. Because, as I mentioned, the stations where the anti-hail rockets are placed are static. We cannot move or relocate them. So we need to find or to define, to elaborate the possibility to improve or to introduce something new, some new approach to anti-hail protection, which certainly should rely on existing resources. In Europe, and if we elaborate this area globally, there are different approaches, like besides anti-hail rocket system, there are different approaches like anti-hail cannons, but there are, particularly in Europe, and namely in the Republic of Austria, there are examples of usage of either agricultural aviation or sport or aviation as a method for the anti-hail combat or anti-hail protection. This approach is quite effective because the existing distributed network is effective, but not enough, not sufficient. Not sufficient in sense of concentrating the efforts to the one region, which is particularly severely affected by the extreme hail, for instance, weather. And the introduction of new techniques which relies on aviation could be successful answer to the increased number of extreme weather events, particularly extreme weather events that brings the severe hail precipitation, particularly in the area of western part of Republic of Serbia. As you can see from the top left picture, the existing system in Republic of Serbia relies on the network of static station operated manually by the operators, by the humans. It is not unmanaged system. Let's say slight improvement of such kind of system could be this introduction of piston-propelled aircrafts, custom-made piston-propelled aircraft. But the piston-propelled aircraft has one huge constraint, one huge disability. That disability is the fact that piston-propelled aircraft cannot intervene in the cases of extreme weather events, because the piston-propelled aircraft are quite sensitive to the extreme winds. And the final solution, maybe the most practical solution, is to use existing turbojet engines, turbojet planes, which are you're going to see on the next slide, which are very grateful, because regarding the anti-hail protection, you need to transport and to relocate, to transport and to spread the adequate quantity of anti-hail reagents or chemical compounds at the right place and at the right time. Regarding this situation, from the central part of Serbia, this is illustrative radar image from Bukulja mountain, Bukulja measuring meteorological station located near to the city of Belgrade, and this radar image refers to the extreme weather events which affected the Republic of Serbia some 10 years ago, causing severe hail damage and also floods. The approximately quantity of anti-hail chemical compounds which need to be dispersed fighting this extreme cloud range to the total quantity of 40 tons. You know, it is quite hard to distribute 40 tons of silver iodine in particular in a short time and to desired place. That is a huge quantity of amount, particularly if we know the fact that classic ordinary anti-hail rocket can carry only 5 to 10 kilograms of anti-hail reagents. So the most prominent solution and prospective solution is to use the aircrafts, the military aircrafts, let's say outdated military aircrafts with no military perspective, but with a great civil perspective as a model of civil-military cooperation, particularly this model. This G letter refers to the word Galeb. That is the Serbian expression for the one bird. This is a turbojet aircraft capable to deliver, to carry on up to 350 kilos of anti-hail reagents, and to reach limit or highest altitude of more than 7,000 meters. Just to make a short note, the majority of so-called supercells creating the hail weather are located at the altitude of 500 to 600 meters. So it is reachable by Galeb G2. And of course, regarding this time specification and time management, the Galeb G2 is quite fast turbojet engine. The Galeb G2 can reach the cruise speed of 800 kilometers per hour, guaranteeing that those amounts of anti-hail reagents can be dispersed at the desired place in very, very fast time. And I have a problem with the presentation. Something caused the stop. My presentation stop. I don't know why, but my Microsoft PowerPoint is not working. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Your screen share has stopped.
I'm not sure why, but I expressed some kind of problem. I'm going to open, because there is only a few slides left. I'm going to open this presentation again. I'm not sure what is the problem. My presentation just crashed. I don't know why. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, we stop at this point. So appropriate quantity of reagents. Yes, of course, I noticed, I remember that there is only one slide regarding the concluding remarks. This is only one option, of course, not only option, but certainly there are other options based, for instance, on usage of modern aircrafts, either pilot operated or unmanned aerial vehicles. But it is essential to think and to consider the usage of existing resources that already exist within Republic of Serbia. There is more than a dozen of existing Galeb G2 aircrafts that could be used as a part or as a mean of anti-hail protection at an acceptable, which is particularly important, acceptable cost and acceptable professional risk. Because, for instance, agricultural aviation or piston-propelled aviation must not be used during the extreme weather events, particularly because of unacceptable professional risk. So, bearing in mind all advantages and constraints of both approaches, it is probably the best solution to propose the mixture, let's say, or to integration of the existing decentralized anti-hail protection network in Republic of Serbia with this upgrade focusing primarily on usage of aviation resources of the Serbian armed forces that are no longer perspective in military sense. So that is the final concluding remark regarding the presentation of my colleague Slađa. So I guess, or I'm quite sure that we were quite effective regarding the time framework dedicated to this panel, this session 30. And of course, maybe we bridge for only 5 minutes this session. But if there are any questions or interested participants, we can organize a short discussion or short conclusion of this session. As I can notice, we had maybe 1 or 2 participants, attendees during this session, but currently there is a question from Sue. For climate resilient society, there is a need for standard community of such regarding dear Sue, regarding the mentioned ISO standards, bear in mind that you can take a closer look to the content of those standards from the official website of the International Organization of Standardization for Standardization, and you can take a preview, only a preview. If you want to elaborate and to learn the entire standard, all principles and all criteria, then you need to provide some amount of money. You need to buy standard in order to use it as a complete PDF version. So bear in mind that the average price for those kind of system standards range from the amount of 50 euros to the 130, maybe 140 euros. So of course you can take a closer look, you can elaborate the structure, but if you want to use it officially, then you need to buy some kind of license, let's say. Is this answer okay, suitable? Thank you very much for comment. Thank you very much for